two, one.
Hey everybody, this is Debbie from Real People, Real Stories Raw, and I have my co-host, my wonderful co-host Jay Rothman here on this wonderful Sunday morning. We have a really amazing guest coming on today, and her name is Joy Zylstra. She's a dear friend of mine who I met through the Humans at Edmonton experience, who has quite an amazing story. When she was 9 years old, she was in an explosion and 45% of her body was burned, second and third degree burns. And I really wanted to invite her on because she has such a beautiful story of how not only did she heal from it, but how she's helping other people not just heal from burns, but from any traumatic experiences they have. And she's just an incredible joy to have around.
All pun intended.
All
Good
puns
morning.
intended.
Good morning, Debbie. Yes, my name is, in fact, Jay Rothman, and I'm excited to be in the studio this morning. Typically, we do the show on Sundays later in the afternoon, but I had a prior commitment. I was supposed to do a hike and healing coaching session this afternoon, so we pushed it to the morning, and so we are live. It actually is 1 o'clock on the East Coast, 1:30, I should say, 10:30 out in California. And while we're waiting for a few people to join us, Debbie Garcia, good to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we have Jody coming in as well. She says, hello, Jody. So Deb, how has your weekend been while we're waiting for some people to join us live?
It's actually been a pretty chill weekend. Got some house cleaning done and just kind of relaxing and doing some self-care. But it's been pretty good. I have yoga tonight. It's called trauma relief yoga, and it's where you're in a very safe environment and you have a little safety jar that you put things in that make you feel safe. And it's for people who have been sexually assaulted or just trying to get through this and be safe. So I'm excited to do that this Sunday too.
Very nice. And so that's something you do pretty consistently on Sundays?
It just started 2 weeks ago. It's a 8-week course, I believe.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So let's talk a little bit about our guest today. As you mentioned, you met Joy some time ago, and a little bit of a bio on Joy. When she was 9 years old, Joy was involved in a very, very tragic explosion that rocked her world. She had ended up with I believe second and third degree burns on 45% of her body. And she spent many, many years, over a decade, working through the journey, the process of healing her mind, her body, and her soul from this accident as a beautiful young girl. And so she's going to come into the studio shortly to share her journey with us, what it was like the day of, what really happened, and what it's been like for her to navigate as a burn survivor, as she likes to refer to herself as. And so before we go there, if you could just take a moment perhaps just to share a little bit of what the intention of our show is about, why we're here, and if you could put that out there to those that are watching us live or on replay, that would be great.
For sure, yeah. So Jay and I started this show because we realized that everybody does have a story, and it's important to share what they've gone through, but not only how they have gone through it, but how they've come out through the other end and are helping other people. And we give them that safe environment to do that. And we kind of hold their hand while they're telling their truth and helping other people along the way, because one process that works for one person can work for other people. So if there's someone else that's listening that this can help, that's our goal, is to help at least one person. And I know that it's helping me, and I know that it's helping our guest. So we've done our share already, but if you're hearing this and this resonates with you, please feel free to share this with everyone.
Yeah, to that point, Debbie, is that if you have a story that you have not told yet, or you're just in the beginning process and you feel like you are ready to share your backstory, because we have learned that, we know, Deb, that we all pretty much have a backstory within our life, and we're all at a different place as far as in the healing process of whatever traumas or wounds that we went through as a younger person. And so if you have a story that you would like to share and come into the studio with Debbie and I, just PM either one of us, let us know. You can find us through private messenger, through Facebook, and we could set up a time to have a conversation, learn more about you and your story and where you're in your healing journey, and have you come into the studio with us. And without you, we don't have a show. So we love when people step forward and ready to share their truth. And with that, before we bring Joy in, I believe she's just about ready to come in. I would like to share that for Joy and others, there may be something that you hear that may trip you up or trigger you in a moment, and that's okay. We're here for you. Just take some deep breaths, and if you can work through it and stay with us in the broadcast, we have seen some beautiful experiences unfold in a moment in prior shows that we have done. And secondly, we work really hard to provide a safe environment for our guests so that they feel comfortable, they feel safe, and if at any time you or I should ask them a question that they're not comfortable with, they have been instructed that it's safe with us to create a safe boundary and let us know that just for this moment, they're not ready to go there. And that's called having a healthy boundary. We support our guests to be able to do that with us in the moment. And so, without further ado, I am excited to bring Joy Zylstra into the studio. And here she comes. Good
Hi.
morning.
Morning.
Hi, Joy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's nice to see you.
We're doing well. I know that I believe you could hear us speaking.
Yep.
We couldn't hear you. How did it feel for you to hear us talking about just briefly touching on your backstory? Did it sound familiar to you? Or did it sound like it was someone else?
Oh, well, no. It's very familiar. It's people say don't let what happened to you define you, but what happened to me, like when I walked into that cabin, the little girl that walked in, she never came out. I was reborn, I guess, in the flames. So it does define me because it is who I am.
It's beautiful. Do you want to go into a little bit of detail about let's walk you back a little bit and walk everyone else back from the cabin and what happened and when you were 9?
Yeah, so I was 9, and my family and we were visiting my aunt and uncle in Boston Bar, BC, and they lived literally like in the middle of nowhere, off the grid, 93, so there wasn't much like cell phones or any of that. But they also lived. Um, there was a main cabin and a guest cabin, and me and my two of my sisters were staying in the guest cabin, and we had just gone on a fishing trip. It was a Sunday, and I was bored. Everybody else was just sitting around, just chatting, and I was like, "Well, I want to go play." So I went to the guest cabin where my toys and stuff were, and I do remember walking to the cabin, and I had this weird feeling in my stomach. And at the time, I thought like nothing of it. I was like, "This is weird. We just had lunch. I don't know what this feeling is." And in hindsight, I do believe it was God or higher power, someone saying like, "Stop, don't go in there." But of course, I didn't listen, and I walked into the cabin and I smelled something, but I didn't know what it was. Like I said, I was only 9, so I didn't know, and I turned around and the stove, the propane stove, the valve, one of the valves was turned on, but there was no flame, nothing cooking. So I didn't think anything of it, and I shut the valve off. I was like, all right, whatever. And like I said, they didn't have any electricity, so I had to light a candle to see what I was doing. And we're pretty sure it was just the flick of the lighter, and the cabin was full of propane, and so it exploded. And in 2 seconds, I believe my dad said it was equivalent to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. I was in the middle. It was a log cabin. All the logs lifted up. My sister's sleeping bag was blowing through the logs. They came back down. The roof lifted, came back down sideways. And like my family, they were about 20 to 30 feet away, and they had all heard the explosion, and they thought the semi-truck had fallen off the mountain. And then they heard me scream. Because I opened my eyes. I wasn't in any pain yet. But I opened my eyes and all I could see were sparks covering the carpet. And so I was scared. So I screamed, and my dad and uncle and the dog, my uncle's dog, came running, and they took me towards the main cabin. And my dad cut off my clothes, and I remember it was my favorite outfit. It was shorts and a T-shirt that had Archie comics all over it, and they were my favorite. I remember looking over, and they were just black and wrecked, obviously, because my dad just cut them off. And they drenched towels in the well water, and they wrapped me up. I don't remember my dad sending my mom away, but of course my mom, nobody knew exactly what had happened or if I was okay, like, or anything. But my dad just knew. He's like, we've got to get her out of here. We've got to get her to a hospital. So to keep my like frantic mom out of his way, he sent her up to our tent trailer, which was up a little hill, and said, go get me some ice, just to get her all the way. And it wasn't until my dad lifted me up, I'm in these drenched towels, and he picks me up like a baby and turns me around to take me up to my uncle's truck so that they could get me to an ambulance. Because again, there were no phones, there was no cell phones, they couldn't call 911. Even if they could call 911, they're in the middle of nowhere, so it was just quicker for my uncle to drive. But anyways, I knew something was wrong when my dad picked me up, turned me around, and I saw my oldest sister's face. At the time, I had 5 siblings, and she was covering her mouth, and her eyes were just wide in fear, and she just kept saying, "Oh my God, oh my God." So I was like, "Whoa." So I looked over to my left arm, and there was like just a huge flap of skin, just barely hanging on. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'm not okay. So my dad carried me, my uncle drove, and I'm told by my siblings later that my mom had come back to the cabin, the main cabin, not the exploded one, with the ice that my dad had sent her, but we were already gone. And this might make me cry.
It's okay to cry.
My mom dropped the ice, and then she just went to her knees and just started crying, screaming, my baby, because she didn't know. Nobody knew. And we were gone. So my uncle, that part's hard for me because I wasn't there for it, but I hear my sisters tell me about it, and I'm a mom now, right? And I can't imagine. I can't imagine. So I remember the drive, and my dad was holding me, and he kept asking me, like, how are you feeling? And I said, I'm really hot, I'm really cold, I just want to go to sleep. And he said, you can't, like, just keep talking to me. And, like, he saved my life. My dad is literally my hero. Because if I had gone to sleep, my body would have gone into shock, and I likely would have died, is what they were told. So my dad's trying to keep me awake, and my uncle's flying down these roads, and it's like a one-way road on, like, in a mountain. So, like, if someone else was coming towards us, someone had to back up. Like, there was no passing. And he was just flying. And I do remember getting to the ambulance shack. My dad's carrying me. He bangs on the door, and it took them like less than 2 seconds, the ambulance guys, to answer the door. And my dad just yelled at them and said, what took you so long? And I think that was just his chance to, like, have his breakdown. You know, his baby was hurt. He didn't know. He hands me off to the paramedics, and they ended up having a helicopter come in. The helicopter landed in a school playground, or like a schoolyard. It was almost out of gas. They didn't think that they would get me to a hospital, but they got me to Vancouver. They weren't going to let my dad come with us because it was an emergency helicopter. Pardon me, I just need a...
Yeah, take a break. It's okay.
Um, and they're like, well, there's no room for you in the helicopter. My dad said, I don't give a shit. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving her. And so they made room for my dad. They flew my dad and I to Vancouver. And I do remember that helicopter ride because I wasn't in any pain yet. Just my body, I had second and third degree burns. We didn't know that yet, but my nerves were all burnt and my body was going into shock. It was shutting down to protect itself. But I remember asking to sit up. I wanted to look out the window. This was cool. I'd never been in a helicopter before. They sat me up, and we were so low. Like, I just remember seeing the mountains so low. So anyways, we get to Vancouver General Hospital, and they told my parents that I was likely not going to make it. So my uncle went back to the cabin to my mom. And in the meantime, it had been 6 hours of the explosion by the time he got to her. That's 6 hours of my mom wondering, like, if I was alive. He brings her to Vancouver. And then my dad went back to the cabin to get my sibling, my aunt, and then he drove them all to Vancouver, went to find out if I'd survived, and I obviously had, but Vancouver said, she's too bad, we can't help her, like, there's nothing we can do. So they called the Calgary burn unit, and they were full. So they said, we don't have room for her. So then they called Edmonton, the U of A, and that burn unit was also full, but the U of A here in Edmonton, they never shut their doors. So they took their healthiest burn patient to the ICU, and Dr. Tredget said, we want her, like, now, like, get her here.
Wow.
So my mom and I to Edmonton. My dad drove my siblings, picked up my aunt literally on the side of the road in the pouring rain in the middle of the night to bring her with us so that she could help out. And my dad just lived on those roads because, again, they didn't know if I was going to make it. And it was in Edmonton that they learned I had second and third degree burns to 45% of my body. But anything that wasn't covered with clothes was burned. So my arms, legs, face, and back. And they told my parents, okay, yep, she'll survive, but she'll likely be here for Christmas. That's a good 6 months. And I was out in 5 weeks.
Wow.
5 weeks. Yeah.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
And we have quite a story to share too, because her doctor, Dr. Tredget, how Joy and I met. She does this beautiful thing called Warmth on the Streets. Do you want to tell a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of what you do to help?
My oldest daughter and I, we started 4 years ago. This Christmas coming up will be our 5th year. Just making care packages for the homeless. You know, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the less fortunate, because I just think some people just really have shitty, like, they just get down on their luck, you know, or whatever. They're handed a shitty, pardon my French,
That's okay,
bad card in life, and everybody deserves to be loved. So my daughter and I, our first year, we handed out 20 care packages at Christmas time, and then we just kept doing it, and it kept growing. And then we asked for the community for help through GoFundMe or donations. And this past Christmas, we did 190 care packages. It was great. And yeah, Debby, you came with us last year for our third year. Yeah. And that's when we met, and then we had coffee and learned that my burn doctor, who 25 years later, I will die saying how much I love this man, because I learned that he was your doctor as well, Dr. Tredget in the U of A.
Yeah, it was amazing. And for skin removal, and the skin actually he donates it to research for burn victims, which is amazing how I can help out, because I've never been through what you have, and I think it's just incredible that our paths crossed like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well,
Joy, I'd like to take a moment, Joy, just to go back on a few things. First and foremost, I just want to take a moment just to honor you and thank you for having the courage to step forward today to share your story. As you mentioned just now, it's about 25 and a half years since that day that your world got rocked and it changed the trajectory of your life forever. And you were only 9 years old when that happened. As you as you have shared your story, as you went back in time, you got quite emotional in this moment with us. And I just want to just take a moment just to acknowledge you and honor you and thank you so much for having the courage to step forward. Now, my understanding is that this is not the first time you've retold the story. I suspect you've done it many times, a number of times over the last 2.5 decades. Is that pretty fair, or is this the
oh
first
yeah.
time?
Oh no. Uh, yeah, no, I've shared my story many times, and I felt at first I felt I didn't really have a choice because I've met many burn survivors in my life, and a lot um, of burn survivors, they can cover their scars up. I didn't even have that option. You know, I'd have like I'm burned. I was wearing shorts and a tank top, so or a t-shirt. So anything that's not covered when you wear shorts and a t-shirt is scar tissue, and I can't hide it. So I was never given the option to try and like pretend it didn't happen. So I was faced with, well, I can either sit and mope about it, or I can use what happened to me to try and bring awareness, help other people. Um, and because it was such um, like a freak accident, um, it made news. Like we came from a small city just outside of Edmonton called Camrose. Burn survivors were not common. Nobody really knew. So yeah, I know I've been interviewed by um, CTV and Global and W5. Plus, I go to schools and I share my story. And just generally, like, if anybody asks me, just walking on the street, what happened? Um, I don't think a day goes by that I don't have to share my story. And I shouldn't say have to, because it's not a problem. I share it with a lot of pride. I'm very proud of it. Survived.
A couple of other things that I heard. One was clearly that the doctors had said it would be 6 months
Yeah.
before they thought you'd be out. And you said, if I heard you correctly, you were out in 5 weeks. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that you defied the odds of the prognosis at that time?
Well, I think I've actually asked that myself in the peer. I think there's a few things. Kids heal quicker, for one, than adults. Um, and I think I was just like, I just wanted to be a kid, you know? Like I didn't fully, I didn't know how much my life was going to change. And I just wanted to get back to being a kid. Like my summer was ruined. And when I found out not back to school, I was like, no, you know, I just want to go back to being quote unquote normal. That obviously never happened, but um, I honestly can't say why it went from 6 months to 5 weeks. Like I healed better than even the amazing Dr. Tredja thought that I would. You know, they wanted to amputate my fingers. They thought I'd never use them again. My dad said, "No, you're not cutting anything off." Uh, Doctors are wrong all the time. And as much as I love and respect Dr. Tredget, he was wrong. And I was released on the first day of grade 4 and went to school the next day. Yeah.
Another thing that's popping up for me right now is just listening to you share your story. At any time, did you feel any sense of guilt or blaming yourself that because you shared with us that you had a premonition. You didn't use the word premonition, but that's what you described before you walked back into the cabin, that you shouldn't go in there, that something was not right. You ignored that premonition. You went in, and the rest is history. But I heard some things that may make me have me feel at this moment that was there some blame or that you put on yourself unwarranted, and how have you worked through that if so?
No, I've never been asked that before. And at first thought, I want to say no. Um, didn't blame myself. I pulled a big. I call it a pity party, but at the same time, I was only 9, so can't really, um, blame me for. I was angry. I remember the only person I blamed was God. We never ever blamed aunt and uncle on the cabin ever, but they to this day hold a lot of guilt. Even though we've tried, my parents and I have tried to tell them like it was an accident, like we don't blame you, but you try and put yourself in their shoes. Um, and no, the only person I ever blamed was God. I remember lying in the hospital bed and I would just be swearing at him and saying like, why, like what the hell. And even after I got out of the hospital, my parents, they raised us Catholic, and I still have a relationship with God, and I was so angry. I remember laying in my bed crying, and I would just scratch at my face and say, God, just let me wake up with no scars. Like, just get rid of them. Like, this isn't fair. And he's the only one I ever blamed. Um, and I remember asking my mom, because she always raised us to say, like, before you were even born, God had your whole life planned out on the palm of his hand. And then after this happened, I asked my mom, I said, why? Like, why would he plan this for me? Like, it hurts. It sucks. Mom, if you're watching, sorry.
No, it's okay to cry. It's so good for you right now to cry.
But yeah, my mom said sometimes things don't go as planned, so he just, you know, shit happens. She didn't say that because my mom never swore, but she said, we were given free will, and sometimes things happen that change the plan. And for years she said like he has a plan for you. There's a reason why this happened, and it took me forever to find out what it was. And I don't know if I'm right, but now I believe it was. I'm strong enough to survive this, and to help other people go through it. I visit patients in the burn unit, and the number one, the worst feeling I remember feeling was feeling all alone. I was never physically alone. My mom was there. My dad, I, my family visited, my siblings, aunts and uncles, classmates. Like I always had, my room was full, of love and support, and I was never actually alone, but I felt so alone because I thought no one knows how much this hurts and how it sucks. So if I can help anybody, not just burn survivors, but anybody who's going through a hard time, feel like they're not alone. I'm such a mess. I'm so
No,
sorry.
it's okay. You're perfect right now. You're perfect right now. You're showing up and you're vulnerable and it's beautiful.
Baby. So to answer your question, Jay, did I ever blame myself? No.
Okay,
I think the
thank you.
only person was God. And
Where are you at in your relationship with God today? Uh, as far as you just clearly stated, you were angry at God and you blamed
yeah.
Him. Where are you in your relationship and your healing
Um,
relationship with God?
so I no longer a practicing Catholic, but I consider myself spiritual, and God and we have ourselves a little understanding. I still, when I pray, it's more just me chatting with them, like, hey, this is what's going on. It's whatever. I'm spiritual, um, and I was gonna say I've forgiven him, but that's not even right because I don't think any forgiveness was needed in my situation. It was a complete freak accident. Propane is really hard to blow up. It has to be at the right like density or whatever. Um, so the fact that this happened and the fact that I survived, um, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I wouldn't change a thing. So I guess you could say that I've forgiven the situation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You just said something that just rocked my world right now, Joy. You just hit me really hard in my soul. It's like you said, this is the best thing that ever happened to you. And for people in the community that just heard what I heard, you may be shaking your head going like, how is that possible? Can you expand upon that right now? Like, why is that the best thing that ever happened to you?
So
What's behind your words?
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I don't have a lot of those, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I don't recommend getting burned. It was so painful, not just physically, emotionally. I was a teenager and having to, I had a guy, I asked him out, I think I was like 16 or 15. And I said, do you want to be my boyfriend? I had a big crush on him. And he was like, no. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because you're scars. And that will always stick with me. It was hard. It was really hard. But now, where I am right now in my life and where I've been for the past 10 years, I wouldn't be who I am.
It's amazing.
Did that come through?
The last part kind of broke up.
Sorry, my sister's calling me. So
Oh.
What was I talking about?
You said you wouldn't be where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be who I am. I'm honestly more scared to learn who I would be if this didn't happen. I truly, without sounding conceited, I truly love who I am. How I've taken this tragedy and turned it into something triumphant. How I've decided to help other people. I've met some of the most amazing people. I've been to burn conferences in China and New York and Texas, and I've met amazing people. And like I said, I do believe that I wouldn't have the life I have now. I wouldn't have my kids. And so like people ask me all the time, if you go back in time, would you change anything? And I don't want to go through the physical and emotional pain again, but I wouldn't change anything. I also I'm even scared to know what I would look like without my scars. Like my scars they're me.
And you're so beautiful, by the way. Like Dr. Tredget did such an amazing job.
Thank you, Deb.
And you did an amazing job at healing, like really.
Actually, I introduced Dr. Tredget to my in-laws before they were my in-laws. And I said, this is the man who made me look as great as I do. And he looks at me and says, I could have done better. And I was like, what? But he's such a perfectionist, and like that was so long ago. But he's the reason I healed the way I healed. Why, there's still the scars, of course, but I don't know if they suit me. Just that's
You're
weird.
Beautiful. You're absolutely beautiful with them. I couldn't imagine you without them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to just take a moment here to invite you to just take a nice deep breath and catch your breath. Well, I want to thank those for joining us live on this broadcast. We have a lot of people watching with us today, as well as watching the watch show that I've got posted up on my personal page. I want to just thank those of you that have joined us live. If you didn't catch us live and you're on a replay, you're just on time. It doesn't matter if you show up early, late. It's when you show up. We're right here when we're supposed to be here. And so thank you for joining us. If you hear something that resonates with you, that you like or love, gently hit that like or love button, or just push it. You don't have to hit it. We can just push it with love. And if you have any questions for Joy or comments, feel free to share them. And after the show, we'll ask Joy to go back in through Facebook and over the next 24 hours, once you've had some time to rest, to come back in and maybe reply to some of those people that have asked questions or shared some of their thoughts with us. I just had posted up for a few minutes a photograph of you when you were younger in a hospital. And before the show, in the studio, you had shared with both Debbie and I that actually was one of your favorite photos that you had. And I'm curious if you could share with us why that is. I'm going to see if I can put it back up here.
Yeah, I'd made that collage photo for my 5-year birth anniversary. And, I asked my dad why he took pictures of me in the hospital. When I was in Vancouver, for any surgeries, my head was so swollen. It was the size of 2 basketballs. My arms and legs were swollen. But I have no pictures, and I guess I asked him not to take any. But when I got to the U of A, he took pictures of before surgeries, after surgeries. Yeah, so the top right picture there, that's me before any surgeries. And that picture is actually one of the hardest ones for me to look at, just because I don't see me, I see just hurt. And then the left one with all the bandages, that was just before they were going to graft my face. So I asked my dad, why did you take pictures? And he said he just felt that I would want to know or see how far I'd come. And he's exactly right. So I made that collage because I think it was important, mostly for myself, just to remind myself that, I did it. It was hell, and I survived it, and now here I am. And the amount of people who, I've had strangers contact me through my Scarred Not Broken page, through my personal page, saying you've inspired me. Like, if you can go through this at night, there's nothing I can do. And I think that's really, maybe the reason the explosion happened. Show other people that think they can't get through something that, yeah, you can.
I love the title of your page, Scarred But Not Broken. I mean, that says it all.
Yeah.
I loved when I saw that when you introduced me to your page a couple of weeks ago. And what I'd like to ask you to do with what time we do have left, because believe it or not, we are about 20 minutes, just shy of an hour. With what time we do have left, if you could maybe just share a little bit about what that means to you and how you are being of service to others today, what type of work you have done and continue to do to help inspire others.
So Scarred Not Broken, I just started it a few years ago. I've been going to schools and giving birth awareness presentations for years, and visiting patients in the burn unit. There was one particular patient, Harvey, if you're watching, hi Harvey. He was burned very badly, over 90% of his body, and he was in the hospital for 2 years. And I went to visit him weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, and just formed this beautiful friendship with him. And it was just really important to me for people to know when they're suffering that they're not alone, that they don't need to feel alone, that somebody cares, somebody's here. So I decided to start Scarred Not Broken, and it's just to provide inspiration and say, why, like, it was actually a family friend who gave me the idea for the name Scarred Not Broken. I am scarred, but I'm not broken. You know, I'm a human. I live my life just like anybody else, and I want other people to feel that too. That whatever happened to you, it doesn't have to destroy you. It doesn't have to break you. You can be beautifully scarred and still live your life. So yeah, the Scarred Not Broken, it's just pretty much just to provide inspiration, let people know that they're not alone in what they're going through, because the feeling of being alone, especially when you're hurting, is the hardest. And I just continue helping people that I think need it through my story.
And you also interview people, do you not?
I do. I haven't in a while. But yeah, kind of the same idea that you guys have got going on. Yeah, I interview people who've been through some sort of a traumatic situation and have lived to tell their story. Yeah, just to, because I believe that kind of like with this, you never know who's watching, you never know who's struggling. And, you know, I had people tell me at 15, 16, like, adults that got burned, and they're like, well, man, if you can do it at 9, there's no reason I can't do it at 30, you know? And that always kind of stuck with me, and I thought, like, yeah, there is no reason you can't do it, but you gotta, some people just need to feel like they've got people backing them, you know, people with them, so they don't feel so alone. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't.
The obvious part of the healing journey for someone like yourself who's a burn survivor is the physical aspect of healing.
Yeah.
What we didn't touch on a whole lot, and I'd like to just take a moment if you're willing to dive in with us, is share what was the emotional and mental healing journey like for you, and where are you at with it, and how did you get to where you're at?
Yeah, the emotional healing was the longest and painful. I can't even begin to describe the physical pain. Only other burns know, like it's, I didn't feel anything right after the explosion because nerves were burned and my body was going into shock. But it just, I can't describe the physical. It just excruciated. But what was worse with emotional and mental is there wasn't any medical books or not, like I didn't know how to deal with this. I didn't know how to deal with this. I turned to sex, drugs, and alcohol as a teenager just to fit in. Just I wanted to be normal. I was very depressed. I tried to kill myself 3 times as a teenager. I was extremely depressed. It was so hard. And then I became a mom at 20. And I remember looking at my little girl, who's now 14, and thinking, I don't ever want her to look in the mirror and feel about herself the way I feel about myself. And I thought, I can't expect that of her if I am not doing it. So I literally looked in the mirror every day and told myself, you're beautiful. Your scars are beautiful. And it was hard. It was so hard, you know? But I did it for my daughter, not realizing I was also doing it for myself. But she was the reason. I didn't want her to suffer. And eventually you tell yourself something over and over again, you're going to believe it, right? Whether it's negative or positive. If you tell yourself you're a piece of shit every day, you're going to eventually believe it. Tell yourself you're beautiful and your scars are beautiful and whatever you've gone through, it's okay. Every day, eventually, you'll believe it. And I did eventually believe it. And then that's when I thought, okay, I don't know why this happened to me, but I'm not going to sit and waste my life away. So that's when I decided to start going to the hospital and visiting other burn patients, and then that goals. And eventually I just healed, you know, like I do still have moments, probably about once a year, where I have not really a pity party, but I do kind of feel like, it does suck sometimes. I don't let it last, but I do recognize the feeling. Like, I recognize it as, they're genuine feelings. I'm allowed to have feelings, but I don't allow myself to dwell on it, because it is life. I cannot change it. I can't go back in time. Like, even if I could, I wouldn't change anything. But there's nothing I can do to change it, so I got to accept it. And now, 25 years later, I absolutely love my scars. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of what I went through. I wouldn't recommend but yeah, I just, it took a long time to heal, and I'm not perfectly healed. I still struggle sometimes, but I don't shy from who I am. Yeah, you're seeing it all the time. I wear those scars loud and proud. Shorts, tank top. I don't wear makeup. No.
Your scars almost are your makeup,
Yeah. Hey, I like that. Yeah.
I remember a photo shoot you did for the Humans Edmonton with the propane bottle. How hard was that for you?
So that was I needed to do something for myself. For 25 years, that's a long time. It's a quarter of a century. And I thought, I need to do something to show how far I've come. So going to the actual cabin wasn't feasible. So my friend Jerry and Larissa, they found this like rundown, I think it used to be like a theater, like not a movie theater, but like for plays and stuff. And it looked like an explosion had gone through it. Like it was abandoned. There was stuff all over. We brought an empty propane tank because I wanted to do something that showed how strong I am, how much I overcame. I didn't realize how difficult it would be posing with a propane tank. There was one photo where Jerry had suggested, okay, pick up the propane tank and pretend that you're going to throw it across the room, like, fuck you, propane. And I picked it up and I went to go pretend to throw it, and I just broke down. I didn't know. I didn't expect that. It was a difficult shoot to do, but it was powerful and it was important to me.
Revealing.
And I'm very grateful to Jerry for capturing in those photos what I was feeling.
And they're beautiful. Those photos are just absolutely so empowering just to look at.
Yeah, they are really good. So I'm not scared of propane. I don't like the smell of it. I will cook on a barbecue. I will light a barbecue. Only if the igniter works. If I have to use a lighter to get in there, someone else can light.
Yeah, me neither. I don't want to do that either.
Yeah. But for some reason, that photo shoot with the propane tank, I think it was just the emotion. It was very emotional.
You're burying it all, essentially. Just kind of what the same photo shoot when Jerry did mine about showing my scars too, right? And it's so revealing and so cathartic and just therapeutic in a way. You're cognitively dealing with it right then, right there. There's no, this is it.
Yeah.
Joy, how many years have you been married now?
2012. It'll be 7 years this July.
Okay. How old are your children? You have 3 children?
Yeah, 14, 10, and 4.
Beautiful. Well,
And
Joy, go ahead, Debbie.
Sorry.
I was going to say your last 2 are exactly born on the same day to the minute, right? 10 years apart?
The last 2, my oldest and my youngest.
Okay.
The 2 I gave birth to because my middle is my stepson, but he lives with us full time. And yeah, the 14-year-old and 4-year-old were born on the exact same day. Birth records say 2 minutes. My husband swears it's to the minute.
That's
But yes,
beautiful.
yeah, they just had their birthday in January.
Beautiful. Joy, how are you doing right now? We're towards the end of the show, and I just wanted to just do one last check-in to see how you're doing emotionally right now. How are you feeling?
Good. I know I cried a lot, but crying's not always a bad thing. You know,
Crying's so good.
I think it, cleanses your. I think it's a good, important. If it needs to come out, it needs to come out, right? So
Yes. Let it out.
yeah,
Beautiful.
I'm feeling. Yeah, I'm very honored you guys asked me to join.
I'm so honored that you came on and you showed up and you're telling everyone your truth, because you can help so many people with the platform that you're on right now. Like there's so many people listening that don't necessarily comment, or you don't really know that they're watching, but they're there and they listen, and it's here for them to listen to.
Joy, with what time we do have left, I'd like to ask if you could maybe put a pretty bow on the show and take us out with just some closing thoughts and comments that maybe somebody that's listening on live or on replay hears something that you have to say that may change or help their life. And we just lost Joy. She has decided to step out. Not sure if she's going to make it back in. We'll see if she does or not. But wow, what do you think?
Oh, she's so amazing.
Yeah. How long ago did you meet Joy now?
So I've known her through the Humans at Edmonton experience, just from her story that was posted. And so I messaged her and started talking. So it's been about 3 years. It's been about, maybe 2 years. And the last year when we actually physically started, actually personally met.
Okay. And had you heard her share this story all the way to the to this level?
Yeah, I have. She's shared it with me personally quite a few times, but she's quite brave to come on and do this. It's amazing.
What's your takeaway from what you shared today?
My takeaway is that it doesn't matter what you're packaged in, what your soul is encased in, what package you come wrapped in. It doesn't matter. We all bleed, we all feel, we all have emotions, we all have traumatic experiences, but it's for us to learn from it and to grow from it and to help others on their journey, no matter how far or how shallow the journey starting is, that we can help somebody. There's always somebody higher that has been through what we have, and there's always somebody where we can give a hand up and help them. So don't be too worried about the shell that you come packaged in, and don't judge a book by its cover, because everyone has something to share.
You know what? My takeaway from is she said so many profound things in her emotional share today. But what I heard really loud and clear, two things was one, that she was out in 5 weeks as opposed to 6 months. I don't know if that was a record time, if that was record time or not, but that's a miracle in itself. And that just shows me that the will that we have is way stronger than any diagnosis, any experience that a medical doctor may have or think that they know. We met a woman earlier this week. We did this special edition with Daphne, who was involved in a DOA car accident at age 15. They said she was going to be DOA. She made it to the hospital. The doctors wanted to harvest her organs that day because they said there was no way she's going to make it. And her dad said, no, we're not going to harvest her organs. You're going to put her on life support. And fast forward, she was on life support. She was in a coma. They unplugged her, I think, on the 18th day or the 14th. They may be off a little bit here, but close enough. And they said that she had less than a 99% chance of survival. Not only did she survive, she healed. She's a beautiful woman today that has created a life for herself, much like Joy has. And therein lies the truth for all of us. What I believe what happens is that there's something called God's natural laws that Western medicine does not take into account. And if we have the will and if we have God working with us, and if our time is not up and it's not time for us to go, then we don't go, and we go on with the show, as the saying goes. We just have to have the strength to come out, and we can heal our minds, our bodies, and our souls. And the other thing that I heard that was just amazing was in the latter part of the show today, when she shared that she wouldn't change anything in her life. And what a beautiful, powerful statement to come in the same segment, the same hour, where she had a very difficult time walking through the day that she had that explosion rocked her world. And yet she could come out on the other side 25 years later, she said like a quarter of a century later, and share that statement and say she wouldn't want to change a thing because she is who she is today. And today she loves herself. She made that abundantly clear. And therein lies my final thought, which is we all have scars. We all have some different levels of scarring that we've encountered through traumas in our own life. Some of our scars are internal. Some of them are emotional, mental, physical. And we all, our scars are our scars. And who are we to compare what we've gone through to compare to somebody else, when we know that if we're in pain and we're suffering and we have these scars and we have wounds and traumas. But what I learned from Joy this afternoon is that she got me. What I learned is that no matter how deep the scars are, if we're willing to do the work and show up for ourselves, we can heal. We can heal our wounds, we could heal our traumas. And as she described, we could have a life beyond our wildest dreams. When we show up and we have the courage to do the work for ourselves, we in fact can heal our scars, our wounds, our traumas, and experience healthy relationships. We can have children, we can get married, or if we choose to, we don't, but we can learn how to live life differently with what challenges we have to face or we have faced. And so those are my parting thoughts. It's been a heck of a week. We've done a number of shows this week together. Yeah. It's a great way to bookend the end of the week. Today is, in fact, Super Bowl Sunday in the United States. And if you are overseas and you are planning on watching the Super Bowl, it should be quite an interesting game between the New England Patriots and the LA Rams. Are you planning on watching a game? Are you rooting for either team, or is it not that important to you?
Not really that important to me.
Beautiful. Well, I'll speak my truth. There was a time in my life where it was really important to me. And today it's not so important. If I catch it, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'm planning on spending the afternoon doing some studying, continuing some deep diving into some shadow work for myself. So I continue to heal and be able to pay it forward and share my healing experience with those that are interested to improve their own life. And so that's how I'm going to spend my afternoon. I call it work, but it's really, sometimes it's difficult, but it is beautiful because through the work that we step into, I know you did a coaching session this morning with Jay Shetty. I did not catch that one. I was doing a coaching session with part of the Warrior Training workshop that I'm involved in doing with Jessica Ahlstrom and the Quantum Revolution team. It's still available if you're interested to learn more about that program. It's an 8-week program. It's for healing, for taking your power back and improving your life in all aspects. It's a powerful program. We are in week 3. It's not too late to join. Right now, they actually have a flash sale going on. It's usually about $400. If you're interested, you want to get more information, you could join up for $197 for the next couple of days, I believe. Just PM me and I'll send you the link. And with that, I believe we're going to have a show next Sunday. I've got a show Friday night, and we'll probably maybe do one more show during the week. I've got potential guest coming in on Wednesday. Her name is Amber Freeland, and she is part of the Quantum Revolution tour and the training. She's going to be coming in to share her story. And so with that, Deb, what do you think? Is it time to wrap it up?
Definitely. I just wanted to let you guys know that Joy didn't skip out. Her internet turned off, and she just said at least she waited until the end. But to answer Jay's question, the one thing that she wants people to know is that no matter what they're going through, they're never alone. Thank you so much, Joy. It's so true.
I love that. Joy, thank you for being with us today and having the courage to step into the studio and step within to go back in time and share your story with us and your healing journey. And Debbie and I appreciate you and love you so much for being willing to show up today and show up in your life and inspire others that it is possible to have a beautiful life, even with whatever challenges that we are faced with. And with that, Deb, enjoy the balance of your day, and we'll catch you next time on Real People, Real Stories, Raw.
Have a great day, everyone.